All right, so now that we've got the legato stuff out of the way, we're moving on to the next section here. We're going to be talking about picking and some basic warm-up ideas to get you going. So we're not hitting the speed yet. We're just trying to get ourselves warmed up, doing some rudimentary things that are very important to do on a daily basis. So I'm going to show you a number of different things here. And again, I don't necessarily expect you to do these every single day. Find the ones that work best for you. Find the ones that sort of expose problem, issues that you're having with your playing. And like I said before, I use a lot of these things as sort of a pre-practice, sort of a warm-up to my regular practice. That's what all of this stuff is. So you can kind of pick and choose what works for you. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to talk about doing an alternate picking exercise where we're simply using scratching. If you've ever heard me talk about scratching, where you just touch your strings and you're not doing anything with your fretting hand, you're just touching the string, getting noise. So what I like to do a lot of times is just try and get my brain sort of in the game when it comes to playing. And so a really great thing that you can do here is just do a simple exercise where you're going to go do something like this. You're just going down, up on those first 4 strings. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to come back. And you just practice that over and over and over, trying to kind of get yourself synchronized. Maybe it's, the beginning of the day, or just got home from work or something like that, or school or whatever it might be. It's a great little exercise just to kind of get your brain thinking about just connecting to those strings. There's something interesting about the fact of how the brain works when we're using both hands. And, if this hand is on the second string, this hand knows to go to the second string. Well, if this hand isn't in the equation, the brain has to think a little bit harder about what it's trying to do. So it's just a great little exercise. Okay, so that's something you can just do again. There's no certain amount to do. I would do it for a few minutes just to get yourself in the game. And again, you can always try and kind of increase your speed a little bit, see where you're at, and if you need to, pull back a little bit. But just kind of get used to that. Now, the next one we're going to do is very similar, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to encompass string skipping. So we're going to go like this. So we're going 6, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2. Alternate picking. And then we're going to come back. So again, another little exercise just to try and get your brain going, get your head in the game. So that's a great one to start off with. Again, doesn't require any strength or anything like that. It's just trying to get yourself synchronized a little bit to your guitar. All right, another one that's really great to do is just doing a simple 4-note pattern. You've seen it, I'm sure, many times before, where all you're going to do is simply start synchronizing. Just playing 4 notes on each string. What's great about this is that now we're utilizing the legato elements that we had talked about before, and now we're adding in the alternate picking that we had talked about in the very beginning here, but now we're actually putting it to the test here. And so, are all the fingers working as you pluck these 4 notes? Do they all sound clean? Do they all sound even, right? I mean, are you getting any sort of fluctuation, with these 2 fingers, that sort of thing? Really be aware of that when you're playing. So right now, again, our goal isn't to play fast. It has nothing to do with that. It's the synchronization of what's happening here between these 2 hands. And then the other really important part of this is now making that connection to the next string. Okay, and then what you can do is you can simply move up 1 fret and then just head back the other direction. Okay, so Again, we'll wind up adding a metronome to some of these things once we get to the next part, but right now we're just using this as a warm-up, okay? Warming up our brain, warming up our hands, and just prepping ourselves for what's coming, okay? So if you think of it that way, don't worry about how fast it is at this point, because even if you're going really slow, and again, this is the beauty of pre-practice, in my opinion, is that sometimes what happens is when you grab the guitar for the first time, that day, and you start trying to play, maybe everything isn't quite worked out. There's little kinks in there that you absolutely can do better than, but you got to get through that first stage, those first 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is, trying to get everything kind of moving, and then you can move on. That's what this stuff is for. And the other thing is, as I said before, is it exposes some issues that you might be having. So when you start actually trying to pick, you might be thinking, well, is my pick angle correct? Where am I moving from? Things we've already talked about. And as I play these 4 notes, do I hear all of them? Are they all equal volume? Or do they all feel comfortable? Again, that honesty thing. As I'm doing this, am I having any issues where I think I need to go back and practice legato a little bit more to try and strengthen up those finger combinations? All of that stuff should start coming to the surface at this point. Okay? So what I like to do with this is I'll just start off. Just as far up as you want to go, and then what you can do is, if you want to, you can just turn around and go back. So let's say I'm heading this direction now. See what I'm saying? So you can go up as far as you want. Usually, if you were in lessons with me, I would have you go from the 1st fret up to the 12th fret and then back. Okay? It's a great little warm-up. Now, what I will caution you on is, if you get used to doing it that way and you like this exercise and it's something that you can see yourself doing on a regular basis to get yourself warmed up, I would also give consideration to starting maybe at like the 10th fret and then going up into these little frets and then coming back. Now, you don't have to go necessarily all the way up to 24 or 22 or whatever it is you have. You might only go up to 15 or 17, which is a reasonable place to be on the guitar. But it's important to do those little frets as well, because they feel significantly different than the big frets, right? I mean, especially if you have bigger fingers. So you don't have to try and squeeze all the way up here and try and do this, because you're probably never going to do that anyway, right? But it is reasonable to be playing at the 17th and 20th frets and that sort of thing, for soloing and stuff like that. So that's another alternative. Maybe on even days you go from 1 to 12, and on odd days you go from 10 to 17 or something like that. And if you have a lot of time, you could do the whole thing. But again, I don't want you to make this an arduous experience. I don't want you to make this a terrible thing for yourself, an overwhelming thing. It's just little things to do to get yourself warmed up a little bit. All right, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to start moving into 3-finger combinations and just start warming up a little bit. The nice thing about 4-finger combinations is that everything is even. Down, up, next string, down, up, next string, down, up. When we get into 3-note per string patterns, that changes, okay? So you're going to have one of 2 options, and I'm going to very much in this course focus on one of those options, but we do want to talk about it. So let's say, for instance, we're going to do something that just pick a scale and a position. So let's say we were going to do G major. So I go to the 3rd fret here and I play. Now, what you're going to notice is I'm playing G major in what we refer to as the spread fingering, which, again, I had touched on before and we were doing one of the other exercises. And the reason is because when I play it this way, there's a couple things that happen. Number one, there's some symmetrical ideas, visual ideas, physical ideas that start happening on the fretboard that makes it easier for me to approach from a faster perspective, which we're going to be getting to. That's number one. And number two is that every string winds up having 3 notes on it. When you play what I'll call the closed or boxed position of G major like this, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that you've got one string that has, maybe 2 notes on it, and then other strings that have 3, and then you got a string that has 2 again, and that sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with it. Again, I use it for a lot of different things, but if I'm trying to play speed patterns, that is not what I would do. I would try and go with something that's far easier, which is something that is consistent with 3 notes on each string, and something that has symmetry, because then I'm using the same finger ideas all the time. So if we look at this, what I'm doing is playing 3-5-7 twice, and then 4-5-7 twice, and then 5-7-8 twice. So you can already see that there's a symmetry happening there. Of course, my G would be here, and here, and here. But as far as the overall pattern that I could play here, and so the nice thing is I can start now getting used to being able to play this, playing down, up, down, up, down, up. So it's a pattern of 6 that's happening there. Down, up, down, up, down, up. And then down, up, down, up, down, up, with that symmetry happening. Down, up, down, up, down, up. You see that? That's what I'm doing. So again, we're not worried about how fast we can go right now. We're going to be working on that. Right now, what we're just trying to do is use this as a warm-up exercise. And again, you can see that there's other benefits to this, learning your fretboard better, fretboard visualization, your patterns, all this kind of stuff. So what I like to do is I'll just take this and I'll just play through it. I could go to the next position. Go to the next position. And so on, or just whatever positions you want. Again, don't get overwhelmed and don't get lost in the weeds. This isn't a scale learning course. You should do that if you don't know your scales or your positions or whatever. That's obviously very beneficial. We're just using this as a warm-up to try and get ourselves ready to go for the next stage, right? So if that makes sense, that's what I would start with this 3-note per string idea. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to take this same idea, but we're going to start making some different patterns out of this. So one thing that you could do is take this exact same idea, but start playing each note twice like this. That's another really great way to just start getting yourself warmed up. You could do 3s. Okay, it's another good one to do. So you're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And again, as you practice these things, you're going to start realizing or recognizing that there's some things that kind of cause an issue, right? Oh, that fingering doesn't work, or I've never done that before, and so my brain is kind of hiccuped there, right? And I'm having a problem. These are great things. Don't run away from that kind of stuff. Again, don't overwhelm yourself with 50 different things that you go, oh, I got to work on all this stuff. It doesn't need to be that. But if you just take on, just like anything in life, you tackle a new little project and you start trying to, take this rough element and you smooth it out, it becomes something that further down the line is going to be beneficial for you in multitudes of ways when it comes to guitar playing. So you can play through this singly, you can play through it doing doubles, you can play through it doing triples, and all of those are really great ideas. Another one that you could do, which I like to do, is I'll just play in groups of 4 where I do things like this. Backwards, we just drop down the same way. Okay, now again, it doesn't need to be in any hurry. It's just trying to get used to it, and you don't have to do all of those. Just want to give you a few different things to think about a little bit. In this stage of the course, we're just trying to get ourselves prepared for the metronome and for the speed practice, okay? But there's no doubt, if we've never done these sorts of things before, if we've never played a 3-note per string pattern before, we're going to be doing that when we get to the speed part of this, right? So these are very important for you to become aware of and start thinking about a little bit, okay? Hey, thank you so much for joining the early bird list for the GuitarZoom Golden Ticket New Year's sale that's happening on Friday, January 13th at 5 a.m. Pacific. Now, the GuitarZoom Golden Ticket gives you 1-year access to every course, masterclass, VIP lesson, jam track, and tab book that I've ever created. So make sure you bookmark this page and mark your calendar for the 13th at 5 a.m. Pacific, because that's when the cart on this page opens and you'll be able to claim one of 500 golden tickets available. Now, these golden tickets are guaranteed to sell out, so make sure that you check your email and text messages so you don't miss out.